Hello, I am going live for the first time on Substack. I have been live elsewhere on other social media platforms, but not. Hello, I am live here coming to you from Substack. Live for the first time. I do use video. For those of you who subscribe, you know that you have perhaps popped in and seen me every Friday with Fluckier Friday. But I thought I would pop in live and say hello in person. And I'm sure it takes a little bit of time for people to come and say hello. But I'm talking today to you about book clubbing in January. So, book clubbing is something that I started in Flucking Flourishing, my publication. And I decided to go live because I'm having a little Zoom book chat on Saturday, and that does require registration for you to get the Zoom link. And it's an opportunity for you to swing by and talk about all things books. And we're actually reading a book together, some of us in Plucking Flourishing, and the book that we're reading is called The Women I Think About at Night by Finnish author Mia Kankamäki. And it is a book that absolutely captured my attention when I read it. I really could hardly put it down. And it's not a kind of book that people have perhaps read before because it is memoir, but it's also a mix of travel diary almost, and a dive into history and an incredible look at women in history. And it's really quite delightful. It looks like this. Not sure how well that comes out on a live. That's the book cover. It is has been translated. This particular English translation is by Douglas Robinson. It is written in Mia Kankamäki's native language of Finnish, and it it's worth kind of reading and talking about. So we're going to have a little bit of a chat about that in our book club live on Saturday. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is a choice that I made probably 5 or 6 years ago now. I made a conscious decision to read mostly books by female authors. And I have read a lot over my whole life. I've been a literature teacher, history teacher in my life, and reading has been part of my life since I can remember. I can't actually remember a time before. My mum said to me that I learnt to read when I was 3, and I've just been reading voraciously since then. But I hadn't really thought about. I've always read a lot of books by women, but I hadn't really thought about consciously making that decision to choose books by women. And it's been really fascinating. I haven't written about this yet, and there will be a post about it at some point. But what started as that I needed to be intentional now is a habit. And what I find myself after 5 or 6 years is that I look for books by women just automatically. I look for quotes by women automatically. If I see one written by a man, I think, pretty sure a woman has probably said that exact same thing. And it's really kind of changed the way I think and see the world. And it also means that I am an advocate of women's stories. By choosing female authors, I am becoming an advocate for women and the stories and the way they tell stories. So that's been really fascinating for me to be a part of experiencing my own brain changing and my own behavior changing. So since in the past 5 years, I have read. I worked it out because I do keep track. I'm not pedantic about it, but I do write them down. I do use Goodreads, and I have read 229 books in the last 5 years, and 182 of them are by women. So only 47 by men. And it's interesting because the books that I've read by men have been really like outstanding. They've both mostly been nonfiction. and a couple of fiction books. Richard Powers is one of them. A standout to me would be Sand Talk by Tyson Yunker Porter, and I have happened to have read his book Sand Talk 3 times. So yeah, pretty much of a standout. But out of those 182 books by women, it's been an incredible journey. I've really enjoyed the process of focusing on female authors and focusing on fiction and nonfiction. And the interesting thing is that I haven't read as many books last year because I spent a huge amount of time reading Substack, all sorts of different Substacks, but again, predominantly women. So yeah, quite fascinating how my book journey over the last 5 or 6 years, how that's probably also informed my Substack preferences. And it's not that it's not that I don't love men writing, but they've had a voice for a really really long time. And considering that, even 100 years ago, women were still writing under pen names so that they could actually have a platform, so that publishers would actually publish them. 100 years, it's not that long, really. 100 years ago, some universities didn't even take women. So I feel like my choice of uh, picking books written by women really helps lift other women up. And that is kind of what I'm all about at Plucking Flourishing. I'm all about lifting other women up, supporting people to really embrace their stories and tell their stories. And I really want to hear other people's stories. So it's a Plucking Flourishing gives people a chance to do that. And so if you are available at all on Saturday, the 25th of January, it will be 4:30 Eastern European time, which is 2 hours ahead of British time. So if you're in Central Europe, it'll be 1:30. If you're in the UK, 12:30 on Saturday. I'll make sure that I drop the Zoom link somewhere that you can come and join me. And it's really nice to see some faces here as I do my first live. Um, yeah, we're book clubbing in January, and we're going to chat about the book, The Women That I Think About at Night. We can chat about that book, but just talk about books in general. This book, it might be backwards, I'm not sure. So Mia Kankameki, Finnish writer, we'll be having a little chat about her. Whether you've started her book or not, it doesn't matter. If you're interested in chatting about books on Saturday, I would love to have you along, because I feel like it's really important to share all the books that we love. And I do live in a non-English speaking country, so I am very, very grateful that I have this incredible library with a really fantastic array of incredible English books, because books here are actually really expensive and the tax has just gone up. They've just increased tax on books is from 10% to 14%. So yeah, that's significant in my my book addiction. And if you've just joined us, I'm talking about book clubbing in January. And book clubbing is the book focused kind of part of Fucking Flourishing. I decided that I would call it book clubbing. I don't have a disco ball, but maybe we could be dancing with our disco pants on, talking about books, or being at home in your pajamas, which is probably even better. We'll be having a chat live via Zoom on Saturday, all about books, if you're wanting to join me. But I was just talking about my choice 5 years ago to really start focusing on women authors and the importance of that, and how it's actually really informed my behavior now and the way that I talk about books, the books that I choose and the books that I recommend. I mentioned before that out of the 229 books that I have read in the last 5 years, or 4 years actually, 182 of them are by women. That means only 47 by men, by male authors. And it's a choice. Being a history teacher, I've taught a lot of history, always have women as the focus. Very often when I've had to teach war history, I've focused on the home front. and I focused on the experiences of women. I've had the great privilege of being able to teach at a girls' school where I had sort of carte blanche to before the Australian curriculum came in, and I could teach what I wanted in that sense. So now that I live in another country, I still choose to focus on women. And the book that we'll be having a little chat about is by a Finnish author, and it's her journey and women's stories. They're just, super important to me, really worth lifting up and sharing and spreading the love with of all things female authors. So book clubbing, 25th of what month are we in? January. Sorry, losing my threads now. That's menopause moment. At 2:30 Eastern European time. So there will be a link that you can join. You can come over to the chat where I have dropped the link. You'll need to register. You'll get a reminder. But that is what will be happening, and that is what book clubbing is all about. So, my first Substack Live, thank you so much for joining me. I can stop talking now. It's kind of like, I can be an audience of one. It is nice to see people's names, I have to say, underneath. And possibly might even invite somebody up. I don't know how to do that yet, but I'll learn how to do that, and I can invite you into a live if you're interested. Oh, Amber thinks that's great. Yeah, I know, Amber, you've interviewed me before. It wasn't live, but maybe you'll feel like jumping in on a live at some point with me when I know what button to press. Oh, I can press a button if anyone wants to come live. Maybe not. I'll finish now. I've got another a whole afternoon of like meeting after meeting. So I think I might make myself a cup of tea, think about books. Maybe I might even read a few lines out of my current book, which I'm reading 2 books at the moment. I have read The Women I Think About at Night. I've read that before. Oh, and Amber says, yes, she'll come on the show. Oh, yay. Do you want to come now? Do you want to come up now? Are we going to make this an impromptu thing? You might want to not do it impromptu. But yeah, it is fun that Substack now has this capability. So Amber, maybe we can do a live. We can organise a live another time and decide what we talk about. How to fucking flourish with migraine. How do we do that? Oh, I think in the live I have the capability of pressing button. Let's see. I'll see if I can work this out. And bear with me if you're watching this afterwards. You can fast forward it. There we go. I can add you and you can join. This is working out technology as we go. I'll see how good the connection is. It says waiting for Amber. So, Amber, you might not want to jump on, but yeah, she's here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Totally impromptu, so just showing up as I am as always.
That's so
Hi,
good.
Lisa.
I'm so pleased. I figured why shouldn't we use all of the possibilities of the technology that we have available to us?
Totally. I'm so proud of you for going live. This is something I would really love to do too. So I was like, yeah, I'll step in and show up and let's see what
Excellent.
happens.
Excellent. Well, I mean, it's fairly easy, and I mean, even me, okay, I probably might not manage it without my glasses, but the buttons are big. It's good.
I'm just moving because I'm just going to put my
No worries.
phone on charge. But yeah, what should we talk about? I love that you're talking about
Well,
the
I'm talking
book
about
club.
book clubbing, so I would love to hear. Are you reading something at the moment?
Oh, I am. Let me grab it for you because we
Excellent.
need to hear
Excellent.
about this book.
Yeah, I just also want to share this incredible mug that I have. I don't know whether you see that it's just so amazing.
I love it. Here's my book. Unwell
Oh,
Women.
fantastic. Oh, that is great. Oh, that is definitely worth a look at. Do you
Journey
want to tell
Through
us?
Medicine and Myth in a Man-Made World. I'm actually reading 3
Mm,
books at the moment,
yep.
so I'd be interested to know if any listeners also do the same.
I just said I've got 2 on the. Actually, I'd probably have about 3 or 4 on the go, but some I one of those are those books that you kind of need to dip in and take like short breaks from every now and then because it's quite dense and it takes a while to kind of process everything.
Yeah, I find that as well. I think there's
Mm,
like an integration, isn't there, when we're
yeah,
reading, especially like the deep work and the big stories and stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, Unwell Women, oh my gosh, I've put off reading it for a a while. Again, I'd love to know if any listeners are tuning in, or anyone who catches up on this are reading it as
Mm,
well. I've been putting off reading it for a while because I felt like it might induce a lot of anger.
yeah.
Being an unwell woman myself, and kind of,
Mm,
but so far I'm nearly halfway through.
yeah.
So far, I've found it incredibly insightful, deeply
Yeah.
educational. It's helped me piece together a lot of what I've been through in my own journey and what I've
Mm,
identified. So I discovered that one of the greatest challenges we face with the systems of our own creation, which in this case is
mm,
specific to the medical system,
yeah. Yeah.
is the fact that these systems have been created without the needs of our body in
Mm.
mind. You
They
know,
weren't
whether that's
even, yeah, our bodies weren't even considered, our hormones, nothing. It's like we're actually not small men. We're way more complex.
and then they were blamed. You know, the
Yeah,
parts of our
that's
bodies,
right.
our uterus
Mm,
specifically, was blamed, and then they
yeah.
kind of came along with the certain cures, which
Mm,
one of them was to get pregnant. Well, the main one was to get pregnant immediately, but that's still present in medicine today,
yeah.
particularly with endometriosis. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
incredibly insightful read, but one of those where we do need to take care of our nervous system. I think
Yeah,
that has to be a priority.
definitely. Yeah, and I think do you think that reading something like that can then inform how you go out into the world and deal with the medical professionals that you come across? Like asking questions in terms of knowing that there's this kind of like history of ignoring our needs, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really great question. That's one
Mm,
I'll have to sit with. I think for
mm,
me it's really helpful to understand why we are where we are today in
mm,
medicine, and what happened in the past. Like, I do believe that
mm.
that's going to be, like, I mean, she even says it, the author, Eleanor Cleghorn, the author is called, she even pays tribute to that, to basically, in my words, not hers, but
Yeah.
to bring about the change that
Yeah.
we clearly and desperately need. We do
Mm,
need to understand where we've come from and the history behind
mm,
it, so that we can put
yeah.
those changes in place. So yeah, that's a really great
Mm.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, as a history teacher, I find that I am often, I mean, I don't teach history anymore, but I have been. I've always loved history, still interested in history. And and often when people will start talking about an issue, I'm always going, well, historically, and then, filling in some gaps there. So I love that she's writing about that because it is important we know where we've come from to get to the point that we are now. And even the other day I was listening to something, and it's something as simple, and you don't think about it. Women are constantly complaining that there's not enough pockets in things. And then the history of that is that women didn't have pockets because women didn't own anything. And if you didn't have pockets, you couldn't have your own money.
Wow.
So it's like there was no pockets, sort of became almost like, something rebellious for us to do is to sew pockets into things. And I mean, really, most women will say, yes, I want 25 pockets. Like, do I need to have a handbag? Well, that can get stolen, a handbag. But if we have
Hmm.
pockets everywhere, then you have the possibility to carry a lot of things, and very useful. And what's really interesting is that in this book, that we're kind of my book clubbing is going to be about, The Women I Think About at Night
Oh
by Mia
wow.
Kameki. So an amazing book, and it's a memoir, but it's also her talking about these incredible women that she thinks about at night and following in their journey. And these are women who have done things. I mean, one of them is Karen Blixen, who most people know from the Out of Africa story, and she wrote her story. But there were some other women, and women that I'd never heard of, and who had these long dresses, and they were explorers, and they had pockets sewn in. put put lots of pockets into all of their clothing to carry all of their stuff. So yeah, yeah, exactly, it's about control. Sarah's right. It was to stop women hiding things. So the more pockets we have, the more rebellious it was. It was like pushing back against society and the expectations. So, yeah, history is important, and reading all the books to give us the context of why we are where we are, super important.
That is one you'll especially enjoy, Lisa. And memoir, you mentioned memoir. Memoir's my
Mm.
favourite genre. What's your favourite? What's your favourite genre?
Oh, do you know, I actually don't have a favorite. Good writing for me is important, and it can come in many different forms. I've read widely in my whole life, and lots of different genres. There's things I don't read so much anymore. But saying that, I was just thinking, I don't read a lot of sci-fi anymore. But saying that, one of the most incredible sci-fi books I have ever read was by a woman, and I read it maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Claire Coleman, her name is, and she's an Indigenous woman, and it is just such a fantastic book.
Wow.
And I'm just completely had a menopause moment and forgot what it's called, but yeah, she's it, yeah, really awesome. I do read literary fiction is mostly what I read, but give me a good detective novel. I don't mind a good memoir, and the beautiful thing about this one is that it's like combines so many of the things that I love. So yeah, hard to pin that one down.
Mm. Amazing balance there. Real mixed
Mm,
bread.
yeah, it's probably why I became an English teacher, I think. Yeah. I love books. I just love talking about books. So yeah, it is actually just purely self-indulgent that I want to have lots of discussions about books that change your life, and books that can really inform maybe behavior, or inform where you might go in your life even. Have you had a life-changing book, Amber?
Yeah, probably a few, but the first life changing book that I ever read
Yeah,
was Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That was
good old
in my
Stephen.
before times.
Yeah, yeah,
Before the
yeah,
shit show the last several years, but I
yeah.
read that when I was 30, and that I would say that was
Okay,
pretty life changing. And in
yeah.
some ways, I'd go as far as to say, given what happened following with my mental ill health and breakdown before finding
Mm,
myself disabled by chronic illness, I do wonder in one of the practices that he encourages you, which is to think with the end in mind and create a vision around
mhm.
your own funeral. It is.
Yeah.
I do wonder the part that played in helping me, find the
Mm,
strength and the courage to speak out about how I was feeling and what was going on for me and the help that I needed. Because there's an exercise in there to think about the end of your
yeah,
life, your funeral, who's there, what are people
yeah.
saying, and
Yeah,
so that was
it
definitely a life changing read for me,
yeah,
a
and I
big
mean,
one.
it is, and it's not necessarily something that we think about. I mean, I do a lot of kind of visualization in a lot of in the work that I do, and that kind of feeling into the future. But the funeral end, I mean, that's really it's confronting your own death, isn't it? So you just it's like, whoa, okay, so I'm not here anymore. Whoa, what's gonna happen, and what is that gonna look like? But what an incredible way of expanding your world, and really kind of facing, I guess, the truth is that we're all going to die at some point, and we can actually do these incredible things along the way to whatever our mission or our passion is to spread that. It's Yeah, that's awesome.
It really was. I want to say hi to people that I know
Yeah,
on here.
I know. Claire's
Sarah
here, and
Van,
she's
Claire Venus, and my
yeah,
friend
yeah,
Kez.
you guys. Finally, we get live too. So I thought, why
Yay!
not jump on? Oh, thanks, Sarah. I'm actually
Oh,
chatting to Sarah later. I've got a time booked in with her. So yeah, it is really nice to have. I mean, yes, I'm a writer, and I love writing, and I understand there are writers who don't want to go live, but I think this is fantastic that Substack is allowing us to speak in a different way, share our message and what we're passionate about, with different media, because I know I have people in my community who are who have said to me, "Oh, it's so good." A few times, like not all the time, I've read out, and now they have the AI voice you can pick. But that's an option, because some people just can't read from a screen, or
mm.
I know there's a few people out there who print off everything and read it. And I mean, bless you, I don't even own a printer. They print out all the Substacks, and it's like you're a newspaper. If I had a printer, I would probably. Oh, that's a pretty cool idea. But I have had friends who have said, hearing things. So like your podcast, Amber, and I have a podcast too, As You Are podcast. If you haven't listened to that, with my friend Wit, we have a podcast. But I feel like the more we can embrace multiple ways of telling our stories, the better. Really.
Totally, and I love that Substack encourages to show up as we are. You know, people
Yeah.
don't want the
Yeah.
perfectly polished, which works really well for me.
It works well for me too.
And that
It's
we
like,
can do this and
"Oh,
have
I'm
go
wearing
on.
clothes that are actually okay today. I haven't got pajama pants on. It's awesome."
I've had pajamas on for a couple of my podcasts now.
You have? I think I was one of them, but they didn't look like pajamas.
I love it. It's the easiest way. We can just chat amongst
Yeah.
friends. That's what I
Yeah,
like. Chat.
it
I'm
is.
just having a really relaxed chat
It
amongst
is.
friends.
Yeah, it's really lovely. That's good. Thanks for joining me, Amber. I'm so excited. This is
Oh,
my
you're
first live
welcome.
and I've got a spontaneous guest.
Me too. I'm
So
so proud of
good.
you. I'm so in awe, just getting on and doing it. Inspiring.
Claire's just said, "Yay, casual bottoms." Yeah, I will say I am wearing jeans, but yes to casual bottoms. Yeah, there's a word I don't. I live in Finland, and I don't live in the. I live in a Swedish speaking part, not Finnish speaking part, but in it there's a Finnish word, and it's called kalsarikäännit, and it means sitting at home in your underwear on the couch with no intention of going out. I mean,
Awesome.
one word for a whole English sentence. It's classic. I think there's even an emoji. Oh, I think I written about it. I don't know. I have maybe somewhere I've written about kalsarikäännit, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So
That's
yay for casual
amazing.
bottoms. Yeah. Well, thank you, Amber, for joining me spontaneously on our live. We'll have to do this again. I'm up
Absolutely.
for it. We can talk
Lovely.
about books.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if
I
we can do more. Maybe we can have multiple people come up. That would be fun.
I don't know if I've read 227 books, but
That's only in the last 5 years, lady.
I've read a lot in the last
Yeah.
kind of like, yes,
Yeah.
4, 5, 6
Mm,
years. But
yeah.
yeah, I love that you've tallied
Yeah.
them and kept a
I
record.
have.
You know
Yeah.
how
And
many by women and
that's right. Well, I wanted to write about it. I really wanted to write about how many. I wanted to have a number because I know, people like statistics, especially I know Claire loves stats. But yeah, that 182 books by women, and that, that's just because I started to keep count. So yeah, it was important for me to have that number because I really realized that it was, yeah, it's like way in the majority. It's only 47 males, authors, and like I said before, it's not because I don't like male writers, it's because they've had a voice for way longer than us. So yeah.
that's what I've discovered in my book, Unwell
Yeah.
Women.
Mm,
Knowledge was seen as power when this first, when,
mm,
the first set of medicine and science and other
mm,
systems as well. It's not just medicine and science.
yeah,
Knowledge was seen as power, and men were able to go out there and write books. They didn't actually have to have any wisdom
mm,
or insight or data or evidence or statistics. They just had to be seen as having knowledge and using
mm,
that as a power in their industry over other
mm,
people, etc.
yeah,
And yeah, and looking at the tactics,
mm,
like the way they went about distributing that knowledge through those books
yeah,
and who they specifically targeted, which was men,
mm,
especially men who wouldn't necessarily be intimate with women, like monks, for
mm,
example. Like they were
yeah,
distributed, and it's just
yeah, it is.
fascinating
Yeah,
read.
yeah,
Yeah, so much history
awesome.
in
Well,
there.
I'm going to get onto that one. That can be on my very, very large to be read list.
I have one of those
It's
too,
as
and a
big
lot
as
of
a
books I keep
library.
buying on my pile to read.
Exactly. Well, thanks again, Amber. I'm going to say goodbye. Oh, Kez is saying they're on board with that. Hooray. So
Awesome.
if you're wanting to come along on Saturday, it's 2:30 Eastern European time. I will be in the Fucking Flourishing chat. There is a link you can register, and we're going to be talking more about books in a less live space and with more faces on the screen.
Amazing. I hope that goes well.
Yay.
Me and Kez can't make it because
Okay.
we're at a migraine trust event.
Oh,
I've
that's
known Kez for years off Instagram and on
okay.
here, and we're meeting for the first time, and we're going to a migraine event together. So yeah,
Oh, well, I hope you take photos and write about it.
yeah, we'll do. Oh, we
Yeah.
will. We will.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone, and thanks again, Amber. It's
Hope it
been
goes well on
lovely.
Saturday. It sounds a
Yeah,
great
thanks.
initiative.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll see
Really
who
will.
rocks up. Yeah. Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.